Michelle had been married to Patrick for 10 long years. Each year passed with hopeful prayers, medical consultations, and nights of quiet desperation. While Michelle held fast to her faith, trusting in God's timing, the weight of childlessness loomed over their marriage. Patrick, though supportive, began to feel the strain as well. His friends, colleagues, and especially his family began to pressure him. Patrick, you need children. You're not getting any younger, his mother reminded him repeatedly. Her words burrowed into his heart like a thorn. Michelle overheard one such conversation between Patrick and his mother. Her heart aching, she prayed fervently for a miracle, hoping her love and faith would be enough to sustain their marriage. One evening, Patrick sat beside Michelle, a storm brewing in his eyes. Michelle, he began, his voice soft but strained. I love you, but I need to be honest. My family, they keep talking about children. It's not easy for me either. Michelle swallowed hard, her voice barely audible. I know. I'm praying every day for a miracle, Patrick. But how long do we wait? Patrick pressed, his frustration bubbling in the surface. It's been 10 years. Michelle, what's what if what if it never happens? Michelle's heart ached at his words. She had always believed that God would provide, but Patrick's growing despair felt like a weight too heavy to bear. She feared that his faith in their marriage was slipping. Patrick, I believe that God hasn't forgotten us, Michelle said, her voice trembling with emotions. We just need to hold on. But Patrick's silence told her everything she needed to know. He was losing hope. Months passed and Patrick grew more distant. He would come home late from work, his usual warmth replaced with cold indifference. Michelle noticed the changes but couldn't bring herself to confront him. She prayed harder, hoping that God would intervene before things fell apart. One night, everything came crashing down. Patrick returned home but wasn't alone. Standing beside him was a woman, Naomi, a strikingly beautiful woman who was noticeably pregnant. Michelle stood frozen in disbelief, her heart pounding. Patrick, what's going on? Michelle's voice trembled. Patrick couldn't meet her eyes. Michelle, I don't know how to say this, he stammered, guilt and shame written across his face. This is Naomi. She's my she's my second wife and she's expecting twins. The words hit Michelle like a tidal wave. She felt her knees weaken beneath her. You married her? I'm sorry, Michelle. I didn't want to hurt you, but I needed children. I needed a family, Patrick said quietly. Michelle's voice cracked, tears streaming down her face. What about me, Patrick? What about the promises we made, the life we built together? Patrick looked down, unable to respond. I never wanted it to come to this, but I had no other choice. Michelle's world shattered. The man she loved had betrayed her in the most painful possible way. Michelle's home, once filled with love, hope, and peace, became a place of emptiness and sorrow. Patrick had moved in with Naomi to care for her and the unborn twins. Alone and heartbroken, Michelle turned to her faith, clinging to the only hope she had left. One Sunday, as Michelle sat quietly in church, the pastor's words seemed directed at her. Forgiveness is not for the deserving, but for the broken. Even in our deepest pain, God calls us to forgive as He forgives us. The message pierced Michelle's heart, but she didn't know if she had the strength to forgive Patrick. After the service, an elderly woman approached her, sensing the heavy burden she was carrying. My dear, the woman said gently, I've been where you are. God hasn't forgotten you. In His time, He will restore what was lost. Michelle broke down, tears flowing freely as the woman prayed with her. Slowly, the icy grip of bitterness began to loosen. Though she wasn't ready to forgive Patrick, she knew God was beginning a new work in her heart. Naomi gave birth to twin boys, and for a time, Patrick felt a sense of fulfillment. He doted on the children, believing that at last his prayers for a family had been answered. Michelle, though devastated, had started to find peace through her faith. She still held no ill will towards the children, even as she watched her husband build a new life without her. A few months after the children were born, one of the boys fell seriously ill. Naomi and Patrick rushed him to the hospital, terrified that something was terribly wrong. The doctors quickly diagnosed a rare blood condition and informed Patrick that his son would need a blood transfusion. I would donate my blood, Patrick said without hesitation. He was willing to do anything to save his son. The doctors ran a routine test before the transfusion, but when they returned, their expressions were sober. Mr. Patrick, one of the doctors began cautiously. There's something you need to know. The blood types don't match. Patrick frowned. What do you mean? I'm his father. The doctor exchanged glances with his colleague before continuing. I am sorry, but according to the test, you cannot be the biological father of this child. Patrick's world started spinning. That's impossible, he muttered, refusing to believe what he was hearing. We suggest a DNA test to confirm, the doctor said. Reluctantly, Patrick agreed, still in denial. But when the DNA results came back, the truth was undeniable. Neither of the twins were biologically his. Shocked and devastated, Patrick confronted Naomi. She broke down in tears, confessing that she had been with another man before they got married, but had never told him. The twins were not his. Patrick was left feeling utterly betrayed. The very foundation of his life he had tried to build was crumbling before his eyes. In his pursuit of children, he had lost everything. And now, even the children he thought were his were not. Patrick, ashamed and broken, returned to Michelle. He knocked on her door, unsure if she would even open it. When she did, he saw the pain he had caused her, but there was something else in her eyes, grace. Michelle, he began, his voice thick with emotions. I have made terrible mistakes. I betrayed you and I hurt you in ways I can't even begin to explain. But I'm here asking for your forgiveness. Michelle looked at him, her heart aching for the man she had loved for so long. She had every reason to shut the door to his face, but instead she felt God's whisper in her heart. I have forgiven you, Patrick, she said softly, not because she deserved it, but because that's what God calls us to do.
I have been praying for you. Patrick fell to his knees, overcome with gratitude. I don't deserve your forgiveness, Michelle. I have lost everything. No, Patrick, Michelle replied, her voice steady. God has a way of restoring what was broken. We can rebuild if you are willing. In the months that followed, Patrick and Michelle began to reconcile. It wasn't easy, but through faith, prayer, and forgiveness, they slowly mended their relationship. A year later, Michelle received the news she had been praying for all her life. She was pregnant, and not just with one child, but with quadruplets. When the babies were born, they were named Grace, Hope, Mercy, and Faith, symbols of the journey they had walked together. Patrick, once broken by his own choices, found redemption in the arms of the woman he had once betrayed. And Michelle, who had waited for so long, was blessed beyond measure. I hope you enjoyed this story. Give us a thumbs up, subscribe to the channel, and also share the videos with others. Thank you for watching. Bye.